I'll now call to the stage our next speaker, who is Sharon Kensell from FMF and AID Australia.
How do we get back?
That I don't know.
Right, got it. I surprised myself. Thank you all for sticking around. It's been a super, super long day, and I was a bit worried that we'd come to the crux and I'd be talking to an empty room. So glad to know there's still people online as well. Thank you, Seth, and the organisers for such an amazing day. It has blown me away how much has changed since the last symposium 4 years ago. Different state as well, which means we get to travel. So where's the next one? Brisbane, yay, warmer weather. So I've come here from Canberra today, so I've come from cold, cold weather into miserable weather. So Brisbane will be nice. So I really can't say much more than what Karen said about what it is like having a rare disease. For me, it's FMF and neurological WEHIs. Although I'm a bit of an enigma, and there's certainly still a lot of discussion between doctors whether that's what I have or not. Either way, I have to live with the symptoms every day. So as part of that, I've been living with that since September the 11th. The September 11th, I sat in an ED apartment and was diagnosed with leukocytoclastic vasculitis, and that's where my journey started nearly 25 years ago, or 21 years ago. And during that time of lots of no answers, I found myself at a loss, not knowing where to find information, how to find information. And basically this has taken us to where we are now with FMF and AID, the Australian Association. So we're in the process now of getting this registered as a not-for-profit and formally recognised as an association on its own under the umbrella of the FMF and AID Global Association, which is based in Zurich. So again, another patient, Marlena Vetterelli, finds herself in a similar situation and needs answers and needs people to work with. So underneath this, we are part of the umbrella group of 18 affiliated groups, which goes anywhere from the Middle East, Morocco. There are Japanese groups involved in this as well. There are 14 languages between us all, including Japanese and Ukrainian. And so we're doing our best to try and provide that information as a global group in all these different languages. It's important to recognise that we are part of this larger global group because together we don't feel so alone with our rare disease. It turns into thousands of us. So what's different between us and some of the other organisations? It's patient-led. It's from a patient-led perspective, and that's really important because ultimately we're the ones living with the disease. We're all volunteers. So it just so happens that I have a job outside of this as well. I was a registered nurse, but trying to work with an illness like this is very difficult. I now work in human rights and disability advocacy for a peak body, which is why I'm so passionate about this. I don't seem to be able to get away from it. As volunteers, we each have our own expertise that we're bringing it to us, and it's not just as patients, it's what we do with our outside work. So we have other people within our group who are doctors, who are parents, who are accountants, who are pharmacologists. We have parents who work within laboratories themselves, who have science degrees. We are an independent association. We don't have a conflict of interest. We're not working with Big Pharma. And we've basically put this together by finding other existing groups, most of which we'll find on Facebook. But often these groups actually go way, way back to Yahoo groups, back when Yahoo groups existed. What we want to do is advocate for patients' rights. We need prompt diagnosis and access to treatment, which has come across quite clearly today that that is not what we as patients are actually experiencing. What FMF Global has been able to do, though, is actually help pay for some of these people that haven't been able to access treatment or diagnosis. So collaboration has been set up with some groups where we've been able to help people go through genetic testing through other means, because sometimes it's really hard just trying to access that genetic testing through our local systems. And most importantly, it's that connection and education that we keep talking about all day to day. So that's with patients with educations, parents not knowing how to record children's symptoms, not understanding that some of these medications do have quite nasty side effects and how to work around that. But we're not doctors, we're not there to give medical advice. What we need to do, though, to get this all happening and to be effective in making these changes is actually identify local specialists across Australia. So I do understand doctors don't want their details spread for patients to randomly be able to send emails demanding some personal help. But what we do know is finding these specialists is incredibly difficult, and especially for those patients who are living rurally. COVID has made such a big change in how we're accessing services at the best of times, and there are limits on how we can all travel. And especially when you're not well, I know that I'm going to be paying for this for the next couple of weeks in just travelling here today. So it's been a personal project for many years, chatting with other patients, that I have just jotted down doctors' names. And who do we see? Who do we know who's familiar with this? And that's often how patients are finding each other. They're typing into Facebook some of these diseases, and it's almost always the first question asked, who do you see? I need help. So we need to identify these barriers that are coming up, not just with how to access the doctors, but how to get the interventions that we're so desperately needing. Having to wait a whole lifetime, which for me, I wasn't diagnosed until my 30s, makes a massive difference. I'm standing here looking like a whole person, but I can assure you at this point in time, I'm missing half my bodily organs. The importance of telehealth, which I was just saying, with COVID, the government was really wonderful. We put things in place. We could get doctors paid by having item numbers. A lot of people don't realise that those item numbers have now disappeared. So we can get short consultations. We can't do long consultations anymore. So for those people who are living in places like rural Victoria who can't afford or don't have the ability then to make the journey into Melbourne, having the ability to connect with doctors through telehealth is really important. The only way we're going to be able to do this is in collaboration, not just with Australian organisations, but globally, which today we've proven can be done. So how are we doing this already? We have dedicated social media groups and support online for patients. This is a picture that was taken of a psychology-led group for children with autoinflammatory disease. We have Zoom groups set up, and these have been running for over 12 months now. It started off as a COVID-needed connection place for people to be able to meet and share experiences. Obviously, it's global, so we've got lots of different time zones. It's actually based more on language than what it is on diseases. We've just tried to make things as accessible as possible. You can see here, just down here, we've got some, I can't even see where the mouse is. Anyway, we've got French, we've got German. There is also a Japanese group that does run as well. Just to give you an idea, we're talking about what seems like a rare disease and few people. Have a look at those numbers. It doesn't seem so rare when you put it all together in all these people that are connecting on Facebook. I set up the FMF Australian and New Zealand group in 2013 out of sheer desperation, and I set it up with a fellow FMFer, Carl. The Periodic Fever Australia and New Zealand group was, as Karen said, was set up by a mum who was desperate to reach out and find people going through similar things, and that was started in 2012. We've all got to know each other over this time. We stay in contact through various means, and occasionally we've met up in person. You can see that there's different languages, and we found people tend to form in country groups because they're swapping ideas on how to access treatment. It's really important that it isn't just about treatment, though. It's about that emotional and social support. There is so much more to these diseases than the medical side of it. I think we forget that there are a lot more practitioners out there than medical practitioners. There are OTs, there are physios, there's psychologists, counsellors, all that can play a really important part in how we live with these diseases. And we have to live with them. We don't just die with them. We're not struck down by, we have to live with it. And most of us will then have family members that have to live with this too, and we need to move forward with it. What I would like most from today is for us all to somehow find a way to stay connected and to be able to support patients that are coming into this with connections as well. Hopefully we have this up and going properly very, very soon with it formally registered. There's a lot of legal loopholes that we have in Australia that they don't have in Zurich that we need to first off get through. That's the website is up there, and there will be an Australian page connected to that soon. And in the meantime, you can contact us via email. Thank you all.